Hey, what's up, my friend? Are you a small local business owner that wants to make more money? How do you create a seven-figure marketing mix? What does it take in terms of inputs to get the output of the magical, mythical seven figures? We're going to talk about it. Have you ever heard the quote, act your age? Little kid, mom's mad, act your age, right? With a business, you never want to act your age. You never want to act your wage. You want to act above your age as a business and your wage as a business, right? You want to behave and think like a $2 million company when you're a $300,000 or $400,000 a year company, because then you can grow into that thing. And really, you ask bigger questions, you get bigger answers, and there's just a little bit of level up in the way that we think. When I work with typical small business owners or family companies that have been stuck for 10 years, they're not even doing $1 million, it breaks my heart.
Emotional damage.
Because they're like two moves away from everything changing for them, but there's old ways of thinking and misunderstandings that they have that keep them stuck for a really long time, really unnecessarily. So we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. I know for me, for years, what I thought is that if I work really hard, I should get a big result. Unfortunately, that's not true. It's not like how it works. At least for me, I would sweat more, put more hours in, but the bank account was only nominally moving. It has more to do with working on the right things in the right order than it does with just raw effort itself. I think hard work is required for success, but it came from a misunderstanding of what moves the needle revenue-wise. And it's making offers, it's sales and marketing and making noise. It's getting yourself out there. If you do a word study on the word marketing, you can argue that its true definition means to make known. So the process of marketing is the process of making known. If more people knew how awesome you were and how cheesy and epic your dad jokes were, they would probably hire your company. And so people just don't know you exist. And I know what it feels like sitting in a small market. Phone's not ringing. It's a down time of year, and you start to panic and question your reality and ask yourself if you made a horrible choice, right? I think the average small broke business owner fantasizes about selling their company 3 to 5 times a year, right? I know I did, at least. So let's talk about this. The first thing I would say is you need to close your gap starting with FRAP. So if you have an existing business and you want a multi-million-dollar marketing mix, before we worry about spending money on ads and doing direct mail and all that, which we will talk about in a second, before we do that, the first thing we do is we use our brain and we close the gap starting with FRAP. What does that mean? Well, let's say that you have $1 million goal and you have a $600,000 business. That means you have a $400,000 gap. That's the difference between where you're going to hit if you don't change anything and what you want to push up to. It's like pushing a rock up a hill, right? And so we have to wrap our head around how much effort, how many inputs, how much volume of stuff do I have to do over here to close a $400,000 gap. And before we spend money doing it, we're going to use our creativity. So FRAP is an acronym that stands for frequency, referrals, average ticket, and pricing. I actually have a training on FRAP that goes deeper if you want it. There's a 30-minute video where I break down the math on it. This is the same formula that a lot of private equity companies use when they buy small businesses as the first thing they do to like double the profit of a business in a lot of cases. You can go to warplan.com/FRAP if you want to get nerdy and do a deep dive on that. But what it means for you practically in a simple way, how do we use scripts and systems and choreography and automation and emails and texts? And how do we have a process where we get your customers that already buy from you right now to buy from you more often? That's what frequency is. If you had a restaurant and someone ate there every week instead of once a month, that would be a massive needle mover in terms of FRAP or F, frequency. Jay Abraham famously says there's only 2 ways to make more money. You either get new customers or you get more money from your current customers. And local businesses really overlook this whole giant truth. Big companies don't. They're obsessed with it. Little companies are chasing the rabbit. They're chasing the brand new shiny customer, but they're not maximizing the value they extract from each customer. So frequency is where you start. And it can be as simple as a script. My mom was a hairstylist for years when I was growing up, and she would make sure she would say a script and book the next hair appointment before they left the current appointment. So as their hair was getting done and they would pay and get ready to leave, she would schedule their next appointment right there. And that little window of time is a big opportunity, because if the client comes back in 8 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever is normal for that, I don't know, they come back in 6 weeks. Had they not done that, maybe 30, 40, 50, 60, 80% of those clients would have waited 10 or 12 weeks to buy. And what that means is that over the course of a year, she's doing, 10 services for some people versus 5 for other people. So in your business, the first part of FRAP is that. And then we have referrals. What do you say? How do you say it? When do you say it? And where do you say your referral ask? The best way to get referrals is to ask lots of times and, remind customers. And of course, you have to wow and delight them and be amazing at what you do. But this is not rocket science. Most people casually ask for a referral kind of as an offhanded comment one time, and they wonder why their phone isn't blowing up with referrals. It needs to be a system, a process, a methodology. Your whole team's involved, from your admin on the phone to the salespeople to your technicians that go in their house or whatever. Everybody needs to be on the same page. And if you use your brain and think of a process that has scripts and automation and a text and a this and a that, and there's accountability, and you train your team, you can make 6 figures just from this, just from referrals. Referrals are the best leads ever, right? They have a higher close rate. They're already warmed up when they get to you. Referrals have a tendency to give you more referrals, which is a whole thing. So it's awesome. And then the A in FRAP is average ticket. Create high ticket offers, decoy offers. When you sell, present your most expensive thing first if it makes sense for you, and then kind of walk back down to your core thing. We can bundle services. We can play with guarantees. We can add bonuses. We can have seasonal specials that's changing all the time to push people into the bigger package. Again, doesn't cost money. It costs creativity. And doing this makes you a fortune. And again, back to the example, you want to make $1 million, you're at 600,000. Well, if we've put some thought and effort into frequency and referrals and the average ticket thing, and then we do the pricing thing too, in a lot of cases, you can close the whole gap just with FRAP before we even do the rest. And we're still going to go over the rest, okay? But I want you to understand raising and lowering your prices along with supply and demand throughout the year is really, really important to your profit. For you as an owner, revenue is for vanity, profit is for sanity. At the end of the day, you need to take money off the table. And in a lot of cases, maybe you, I don't know, I know for me, there was revenue coming in, but there was nothing left over for Josh. And I like the quote, leaders eat last. But we still have to eat, right? And the goal isn't to always eat last, metaphorically, right? It's a mindset thing. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. So after you've used your brain and created what I call brain money by applying FRAP to however it makes sense for your company, then we want to talk about the 2 core types of marketing. The way that I see it and the way that I visualize this for myself is there's reactive marketing and there's proactive marketing. And both of them are really good. They're great. They're awesome. They're going to make you a bunch of money, but they're not the same thing. You see, reactive marketing is any kind of marketing where you, as the owner, don't have control over the quantity of deal flow that it brings you. You don't have control over the quantity of deal flow, okay? And I'll clarify that in a second. Proactive marketing is anything that you do where you do have some measure of control over the quantity of deal flow that you get. I'll give you an example. So SEO or Google AdWords or even Google Organic, when you're optimizing your Google My Business page and you come up at the top of the search rankings and you're running Google ads, all of that's great. That's reactive marketing. And the reason why is that in your small town, maybe there's 111 people a month that search for personal chef services, Dallas, Texas, or whatever. And I want you to get all 111 of those jobs. I want you to close everybody. But the problem with it is that I can't turn the 111 searchers into 253 or 392, right? And so what you want to do when you look at your 7-figure marketing mix is first, we close the gap starting with FRAP. Second, we're going to optimize all of our reactive marketing stuff. Make sure you're updated with new before and after pictures, that your website is SEO optimized. Make sure that if you do have Google ads going and they're working, that we max out the budget until you get that diminishing return and then kind of dial it back. But we want to grab everything we can from all the people that are already searching for our stuff, of course, right? It's becoming more findable, and you want to be findable because people already looking for your stuff are like the best leads ever. And after that's done, then we move over to proactive marketing. Proactive marketing is what takes people from 1 to 3 million, from 5 to 10 million, from 100 million to $1 billion, is having a lever created. And a lever is a predictable system, a way to put $1 in the top of a magic box. Pull the lever, and $10 comes out the bottom of the box. Who wants that box? Do you want that box? Will, do you want a magic money box? I think we all want this box. But I want you to notice something. The typical small business owner is very just kind of, they react to stimulus. They live their life like Groundhog's Day. They get really busy. They get sucked into the field, or they're doing the wrong things in the wrong order. And then when their schedule dies, they go take all their money and they like throw it at a marketing agency, or they throw it at direct mail, and they're poor and they're broke and they're suffering. Can you see why? Because if that same business owner would have really done some creative thinking about FRAP up front before the year started, okay? And they have some scripts and systems and methods and methodologies and processes and automations to increase frequency in their referrals. They've bumped their average ticket through the choreography of how they do their thing. They're raising their price when they're getting booked too far out, lowering it back down to get the deals that they didn't close when the schedule does open up. When they're playing that game, they make a ton more money. Then, from that position of power, what they're going to do is they're going to make sure that their reactive marketing stuff, their Google stuff is not perfect, but optimized, that they've updated it. And then from that position of power, then they go spend money on direct mail, but they do it the right way. And it's really this focus on nuance and these slight ways of thinking different that make all the difference in the world. That's not more complicated than this. This is really true. So anyway, proactive marketing could be a bunch of different things, but it's something you can measure. Think of it like this. Here's kind of a formula. For your business, I want you to answer this in your own head right now. How many dollars a year is one brand new shiny customer worth to you? Answer that right now. If you're a lawn care company, you might realize, okay, we do 20 something cuts a year and it's $30 a cut and blah, blah, blah. Oh, they're worth $1,200 a year. Okay, cool. If you're a maid service, I know maid services can have, $3,000 to $4,000 a year on average, depends. There's some people I know in New York City that are $5,000 to $6,000 a year per brand new shiny customer. But what is it for you? If you have a repeat or recurring service company, there's a certain amount of dollars you make on average per year from a brand new shiny customer, right? And so let's go back to the $1 million gap, or the $1 million example. That's your goal. You're going to do $600,000. You have a $400,000 gap. You've probably already closed half of it with FRAP, but let's still use the whole $400,000 gap. If a brand new shiny customer to you is worth $1,000, that means we need 400 brand new shiny customers for you to close the gap and get the magical 7-figure amazing life that you want, right? It's just a little bit of math. It's not a big deal. And those 400 customers, we don't need to get them all this week. We need to get a little bit this week and a little bit next week and a little bit the next week. Some weeks we need to get more. Some weeks we need to get less based on the revenue curve, the demand curve for your market. But you can use like a freaking napkin and a pencil and kind of start figuring this stuff out. And this is how you create a lever, because once I know I need this many customers this week, then we can look at our proactive marketing and say, all right, how much of each thing do I need to do to harvest one brand new shiny customer? This is the game. This is what you're trying to figure out. Even something as old school and analog, but still effective and as simple as yard signs, okay, can be a lever for you. If you do yard signs correctly and you're super creative and you focus on the nuance on when you put them, where you put them, how you put them, exactly how they're designed, you track them, you put them on a map, and you do big volume of them, you might realize that for every 50 yard signs you put out, it generates, 2 phone calls a month, and one of them turns into a job. I'm just making this example up, but if that's true, that's a lever. So if you know that 50 yard signs equals a brand new shiny customer, now we have a formula, something that's predictable that we can scale. Because guess what? You don't have to put 50 out. You could put out 2,500. You could put out 5,000, depending on your market. You could push that really far, right? Same with direct mail, same with flyers and door hangers and knocking on people's doors, same even with partnerships with other companies. And what you're trying to figure out is how much input, how much volume of a thing do I do to get a brand new shiny customer? And, in conclusion here, if you're broke, you're going to want to focus on boots on the ground marketing, just kind of a phrase I coined years ago that's used all over now. I love it. We call it bog marketing. And if you don't have money, that's great. That means you have time. So you're going to go knock on doors and shake hands and kiss babies and talk to people. And you will realize if you look at your business like this, if you close the gap starting with FRAP, optimize your reactive marketing, and then go boots on the ground and realize every 30 doors I knock on, I get a deal. Cool. I need to get 3 deals this week. That's 90 doors. How long does that take? Perfect. And then as you start to get money, guess what? You don't have to knock on doors anymore. You can do the lazier way of marketing. You can do some proactive marketing that's not bog. You could do EDDM, and you might realize, okay, every 2,500 cards I send equals this many calls, equals this many jobs, and then you do the math and figure it out. So at the end of the day, business is about people and math. Math is the path. It doesn't lie. What if it was really small? What if you looked at $1 million and you looked at it the same way someone else looks at 10,000? Look at $1 million like that. It will be easier for you. Hey, did you like this video? If you did, there's a little thumbs up button. If you hit it, it helps us spread the message. I appreciate you being here. Take care, and God bless.